The Osage elders gathered on the prairie, a vast expanse that had been their home for generations. The land, rich with history and memories, was a silent witness to their traditions and way of life. The wind whistled a mournful tune, as if echoing the sorrow in the hearts of the elders. It carried with it the whispers of their ancestors, a reminder of the legacy they were trying to preserve. In their hands, they held a sacred pipe, an artifact of immense spiritual significance. This pipe was more than just a ceremonial object. It was a bridge to their past, a symbol of their enduring spirit. It was a symbol of their heritage, of their connection to the land. The intricate designs on the pipe told stories of their ancestors, stories that had been passed down through generations. With heavy hearts, they buried it. The act was not just a physical burial but a symbolic gesture, acknowledging the end of an era. The earth, which had always been their ally, now became the keeper of their sacred traditions. They knew their way of life was fading, their traditions slipping away. The modern world was encroaching upon their ancient customs, threatening to erase their identity. Their descendants were being forced to assimilate, their culture slowly being extinguished. The boarding schools aimed to strip away their language, their beliefs, and their very essence. The pipe represented a past they feared was lost forever. Each movement in the ceremony was deliberate, filled with a profound sense of loss and resignation. The elders mourned the future. They saw a world where their grandchildren might not know the songs of their people, the dances that celebrated their heritage, or the stories that defined their identity. They feared for their children and grandchildren. The young ones, innocent and unaware, were the bearers of a legacy that was at risk of being forgotten. The white man had come to their land, hungry for what the Osage possessed. The discovery of oil had brought wealth, but also greed and exploitation, further endangering their way of life. The Osage had always been a proud and independent people, but their strength would be tested like never before. They faced challenges that threatened not just their land, but their very existence. The ceremonial burial was a harbinger of the dark times to come. It was a poignant reminder of the resilience of the Osage people, and their unyielding spirit in the face of adversity. The ceremony, though somber, was also a testament to their enduring hope and determination to preserve their heritage for future generations. Beneath the rolling hills of Osage County lay a hidden treasure oil, black gold they called it. It brought a promise of unimaginable wealth. When the oil gushed from the earth, it transformed the Osage Nation. They became the richest people per capita in the world. Money flowed like the oil itself. The Osage were able to buy cars, build mansions, and send their children to the best schools. They were living the American dream, but this dream would soon turn into a nightmare. For the white residents of Osage County, the tribe's wealth was an unbearable provocation. The U.S. government, in its supposed wisdom, declared the Osage as incompetent to handle their own finances. They assigned white guardians to oversee their wealth. It was a decision cloaked in paternalism but fueled by avarice. These guardians, instead of protecting the Osage, saw an opportunity for self-enrichment. They squandered their wards' fortunes, lining their own pockets with the tribe's wealth. They took advantage of the Osage's trust, manipulating them with false promises and outright theft. The Guardians' greed knew no bounds, and their actions set the stage for a wave of violence that would terrorize the Osage Nation. Ernest Burkhart returned from the battlefields of World War I, a changed man. The horrors of war had left an indelible mark on his soul, transforming him from a naive young man into someone who had seen the very worst of humanity. The trenches, the relentless gunfire, the loss of comrades, all these experiences had hardened him in ways he could never have imagined. The war had hardened him, left him restless and ambitious. He found it difficult to settle back into the quiet life he once knew. The restlessness gnawed at him, pushing him to seek something more, something that could match the intensity of his wartime experiences. He was determined to carve out a new path for himself, one that would bring him the recognition and success he craved. He came back to Osage County seeking his fortune. The land was rich with opportunity, especially with the recent discovery of oil. Ernest saw this as his chance to make a name for himself, to rise above the ordinary and achieve greatness. The promise of wealth and prosperity was too alluring to resist.
There I fell under the influence of my uncle, William King Hale, a rancher with a dark heart and a thirst for power. Uncle Hale was more than just a family member. He was a mentor, a guide into a world of ambition and cunning. But his guidance came at a cost, for he was a man driven by greed and a ruthless desire for control.
Hale was a charismatic figure, a man who could charm and manipulate with equal ease. His influence was far-reaching, and he had a way of bending people to his will. He was a master of persuasion, able to present his darkest schemes as if they were noble endeavors. To many, he appeared as a benefactor, but beneath the surface, his intentions were far more sinister. He saw the Osage wealth as his own personal gold mine. The oil beneath the Osage land was a treasure trove, and Hale was determined to claim it for himself. He viewed the Osage people not as individuals with rights and lives, but as obstacles in his path to unimaginable wealth. His greed knew no bounds, and he was willing to go to any lengths to achieve his goals. He devised a sinister plot to claim it, a plan that would leave a trail of blood and terror in its wake. The scheme was intricate and cold-blooded, involving deceit, betrayal, and murder. Hale's plan was to systematically eliminate those who stood in his way, ensuring that the wealth of the Osage would flow into his coffers. The consequences of his actions would be devastating, leaving a dark stain on the history of the region.
The Osage wealth is mine for the taking. The oil fields are ripe for exploitation, and with the right moves, I can control it all. The power and influence that come with such wealth are within my grasp, and I will stop at nothing to seize them. We just need to play our cards right. Every move must be calculated, every ally carefully chosen. The stakes are high, but the rewards are even higher. In this game of power and deceit, only the shrewdest will prevail.
And so, the stage was set for a dark chapter in the history of the Osage Nation. The events that would unfold would bring untold suffering and loss, but they would also reveal the resilience and strength of a people determined to survive. This was not just a story of greed and betrayal, but also one of courage and endurance in the face of overwhelming adversity. Section 5, A Budding Romance.
Mollie Kyle was an Osage woman known for her kindness and her quiet strength.
She caught the eye of Ernest Burkhart, and their relationship blossomed into love. They married in a simple ceremony, their future seemingly bright with promise.
Mollie had no idea that she was marrying into a family consumed by greed and darkness.
Ernest, under the sway of his uncle Hale, began to distance himself from Mollie. He became withdrawn, his demeanor shifting from loving to secretive. Mollie couldn't have known that her husband was being drawn into a web of conspiracy, one that would put her own life in jeopardy. Section 6, The Reign of Terror.
With chilling calculation, Hale orchestrated a campaign of terror against the Osage people. He hired assassins to eliminate anyone who stood in his way. These weren't random acts of violence, but cold-blooded murders designed to instill fear and silence opposition.
One by one, members of Mollie's family died under mysterious circumstances. First, her sister Anna Brown was found murdered. Then her mother died shortly after, seemingly from poisoning.
Mollie, her heart heavy with grief, began to suspect that these deaths were no coincidence.
Section 7, The Fires of Tulsa. The horrors unfolding in Osage County coincided with another dark chapter in Oklahoma's history, the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. This event marked one of the most devastating instances of racial violence in American history. A thriving black community in Tulsa, known as Black Wall Street, was brutally attacked by a white mob. This community had been a beacon of black prosperity and success, showcasing the potential of African American entrepreneurship and resilience. Homes and businesses were burned to the ground, and countless innocent lives were lost. The destruction was so extensive that it left the community in ruins, with many survivors left homeless and destitute. The massacre sent shockwaves throughout the state, a stark reminder of the racial hatred and violence that plagued the nation. Newspapers across the country reported on the atrocity, bringing national attention to the deep-seated racial tensions in America. The Osage, already reeling from the murders within their own community, watched in horror as another marginalized group faced unimaginable brutality. The parallels between their suffering and that of the black community in Tulsa were striking and deeply unsettling. The events in Tulsa served as a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of minorities in the face of white supremacy. It underscored the pervasive and systemic nature of racial violence, highlighting the urgent need for justice and equality in a nation grappling with its own identity.
Refusing to be silenced by fear, I embarked on a relentless pursuit of justice. I knew in my heart that my family's deaths were no accident. Driven by grief and a mother's fierce determination, I sought help from outside law enforcement.
Mollie hired a private detective, the renowned William J. Burns, to investigate the murders. Burns, sensing the magnitude of the conspiracy, brought in his team of operatives to Osage County. Their arrival marked a turning point in the case, offering a glimmer of hope that the truth might finally be revealed. The investigation by the Burns Agency, coupled with the newly formed Bureau of Investigation's involvement, brought the reign of terror to an end. Evidence pointed to William King Hale as the mastermind behind the murders, his greed and ambition knowing no bounds. Hale, along with his nephew Ernest Burkhart, was arrested and put on trial. The courtroom became a battleground, a fight for justice against a backdrop of corruption and intimidation. Despite attempts to suppress the truth, Hale and Burkhart were found guilty. Mollie, herself slowly recovering from poisoning, had finally exposed the depth of the conspiracy. The convictions of Hale and Burkhart didn't erase the pain and loss inflicted upon the Osage Nation. The trials exposed a web of complicity that reached deep into the heart of Osage County, revealing the complicity of law enforcement and local officials.
Even more egregious, William Hale, despite the overwhelming evidence against him, was eventually paroled. The injustice of his release served as a bitter reminder of the systemic racism that pervaded the justice system. Forever marked by the tragedy, I continue to fight for the rights of my people, my spirit unbroken.
The story of the Osage Reign of Terror is a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of American history. It is a story of greed, betrayal, and the exploitation of a people for their wealth. But it is also a story of resilience. The Osage Nation, despite the horrors they endured, never gave up hope. They fought for justice, for recognition, and for the preservation of their culture. Their story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a beacon of hope in the face of unimaginable adversity.